Going on, Jerome. So the Super Bowl is in the books. That means it is officially draft season. Well, draft season never stops, man. But Pro Football Focus, PFF, our guy Trevor Sikkema just put out his latest post-Super Bowl NFL mock draft, and there's some things and some stuff that happen for the Vikings, and super interesting mock, so let's dive on in. Williams at 1. I think the Bears, seeing Mahomes just completely turn it on as a generational talent, they're just like, probably not getting that from Justin Fields. So roll the dice with Caleb Williams at 1. Number 2, I think this trade actually might be imminent, where the Broncos moving into the top 3. I do think that stupid-ass Sean Payton and jumping George Payton, confusingly enough, do have something in the chamber. So they move all the way up for Drake May as their quarterback of the future. For number 12, a 2025 first, a 2025 second, and a 2026 first. So that's a lot. It's a lot, man. Then Daniels goes to Patriots at 3. I kind of like it. I don't know how it's going to work. Like, Jaden Daniels is a supreme talent. I think that Gerard Mayo and company could potentially find their quarterback of the future right here at 3. But we'll see. Marvin Harrison going to the Cardinals, which I think is the best case scenario for the Cardinals all the times, man. Rome Odunze going to the Chargers. Joe Alt going to the Giants. So the Giants tried this with Evan Neal. Take a high-end left tackle, try and make him play right tackle. Now, could they have just taken Latham and then put him in with Andrew Thomas? Could have made sense. Or if a team potentially wants to trade up for Alt, or I don't know, man. But I feel like in terms of left tackles, I feel like Alt is the most pro-ready and safe guy. I think Fashanu is going to be like the higher ceiling dude, but we'll see. Dallas Turner goes to the Dirty Birds kicking the trees. What up? All right, so Dallas Turner on the edge in Atlanta. Raheem Morris gets himself a talisman out there. Tessie Tytoons pick up a right tackle, and J.C. Latham, absolute road grader on that right side. Malik Neighbors goes to the Bears. So, I mean, the Bears sticking and picking and take a Caleb and then Malik Neighbors. I mean, that's pretty good. It's pretty good, man. Another trade. So the Commies leapfrog the Vikings to get ahead of them and take J.J. McCarthy Dynamite. So J.J. is the 4th quarterback off the board. The Commies gave up to the Jets. Again, fueling the dumbest rivalry in sports history. So they gave up 12 as well as a second rounder for 10 and a third. There you go. J.J. McCarthy heads to D.C. Now, I think the Vikings certainly would have been in the J.J. McCarthy business if he was still on board, or maybe they could have talked to the Jets themselves and potentially moved up just one spot to block the Commies. But it is what it is, and McCarthy heads out to D.C. Vikings. So if this is how the board played out, so Dallas Turner off the board, the top 4 quarterbacks are off the board. I mean, could look into trading down, but no trade here. But the Vikings sticking to pick and taking Jared Verse from the Florida State University. This is what Trevor wrote. The Vikings will be one of those teams that could aggressively move up for a quarterback. If they can't find a deal, look for them to shift their focus to the defensive line. Interior or edge could be in play here. But with Verse still on board, he is the pick here. Now, still on board. There hasn't been a cornerback taken. Also, Byron Murphy II from Texas is still here. Drazon Newton from Illinois is still here. So there's lots of options. But Jared Verse, even though a little bit older of a prospect, the pride of Albany certainly can get it done. 2 years at Florida State were fantastic. Probably wouldn't have been a first-round pick if he declared last year. But Verse is an absolute monster, and he's a big reason why that Florida State defense was one of the top-ranked defenses nationally, one of the big reasons why Florida State was 13-0. So it is a bit of a trade-off, because even though Verse is a little bit older of a prospect, I think there's some maturity in his body, maturity in his pass rush, and also I think that he does step in as a leader immediately on the Vikings defensive line. So is he going to play stand-up, hand the dirt? I think he'll play a little bit of both with Flores going forward. So, like we said, the Vikings double dip in this one. So Fuaga goes to the Jets. That makes a ton of sense. Murph going to the Raiders. I kind of like the one. So Murphy the 2nd and Max Crosby. Whew, that's pretty good. Fashanu. I mean, I would have been tempted with Fashanu, but it's interesting that he ends up being the 4th tackle off the board in this spot. But they get their left tackle of the future. Ramczyk is starting to age out a little bit on the right side, but overall they do have some nice bookends. Seal is broken on corners. Terry Arnold goes to the Colts. I feel like Arnold is the safest of the corners, but I understand if a team wants to take a dart throw on Quinion Mitchell or Wiggins. Troy Fautanu stays in the great state of Washington. He goes up to Seattle. JPJ. So I do think that people are opening up that Murphy and Jackson Powers Johnson are going to be likely first round picks. I think they're going to go higher than people do expect. But I mean, JPJ. I mean, hell, if the Vikings would have just taken Powers Johnson at 11, I wouldn't have necessarily been mad. I mean, Verse is a great player, and D-line is definitely a need, but I mean, just JPJ is that dude, man. I mean, come on. Brock Bowers takes a draft day tumble. I don't know if he falls this far, but I mean, hell, this would be a crime if he gets all the way to 18 and just gets to link up with Joe Burrow for nothing. Naza. Latu stays in LA, going to the Rams. Quinion Mitchell, ooh. Quinion Mitchell staying in the Rust Belt, and he pairs up with the other JPJ, Joey Porter Jr. That's really damn good, man. Guyton goes to the Dolphins. They need a ton of help along the offensive line. Kool-Aid goes to Philly. Newton goes to the Texans. I kind of like that one. So Jerzon Newton as well as Will Anderson in that D'Amico Ryans defense. Let's go. Mims going to the Cowboys. They definitely need a refreshing along the O-line. Cooper DeJean. Packers fans will love him. They will love him. Also, I mean, if they lose Nix in free agency, DeJean comes in as probably one of the better punt returners in the league right away, as long as he doesn't do this. Graham Barton. Graham Barton's a dog, man. I actually think that Barton could reduce inside, so I think that he might take over for Jensen at that starting center spot. Wiggins goes to the Cardinals. So the Arizona picks up Harrison Jr. and Wiggins. I mean, that's really good on the outside. BTJ, I mean, who knows what happens with Stephon Diggs, but Brian Thomas Jr., I feel like he's massively underrated, and I think that he given his size, given his range, given his physical attributes, I think that him and Josh Allen long term is going to be great. Darius Robinson going to the Lions at 29. This is going to be a problem. I mean, Darius Robinson is a guy that's really shooting up draft boards, and I think that him and Hutchinson are going to be bad news for a while. Vikings at 30. So they trade back in. So they gave up their second rounder this year and a 2025 third round pick for number 30. So they get this from the Ravens. And I don't know, man. With the Vikings unable to secure a quarterback early in the draft, look for them to have their eye on Nix if it happens to fall at the end of the first round. A small trade-up allows them to get a fifth-year option on him, which is paramount, given how much money quarterbacks can command. And with Bo Nix, obviously, put up some insane numbers at Oregon, and there's a lot of questions about, hey, how does this translate to the NFL? Because he was bottom 5 in FBS in terms of ADOT, average depth of target, but is he a guy that can play outside of his offense? Kind of had a rough Senior Bowl, and I think that everything underneath, he's good. But once you get past 10 yards, I mean, that ball doesn't have the same velocity as some of the other guys. I understand why they went with Nix over Penix, because there's a lot of medical questions with Penix, even though he does have that release and velocity down the field. But in terms of, this is what bothers me too. So we've seen a lot of comments is like, oh, don't take J.J. McCarthy. He's the next Christian Ponder. Bo Nix is literally Christian Ponder. So you have a guy who's very heady, high football IQ, a little bit older of a prospect, as well as he has functional mobility, is functional underneath, but you do question his arm strength down the field in the back third of the field, and also you question his deep ball accuracy. But other than that, he's good to go. Now, if they think that Bo Nix is the guy, I mean, there are questions, but trading on up, securing him, making him a first-round pick, quarterback 5, big-time project. And I think the worst things that could happen for Nix is if he had to start right away. And with Nix, I like him, but also just looking at the whole Brock Purdy thing. Like, is Nix a guy that could beat Brock Purdy? Yes, I think he certainly could. But would he ever progress beyond that, beyond what Brock Purdy is right now, as a guy that you can win with? Like, he can facilitate the offense, can distribute it, but if you need him to put the team on his back and drag it to victory, especially in big time high leverage games, I don't know. I don't know. But if this is how the board breaks down and the Vikings determine that he's the guy, I'm all in. Let's go, man. Morgan goes to the Niners. I mean, that's a really good pickup. Jordan Morgan is nasty. I kind of like him a lot. And then Keon Coleman going to Florida State, where, Mahomes needs a tall receiver. Keon Coleman is a freak, man. It's good, but there's so many damn good wide receivers in this class. It's kind of crazy, man. But the Vikings make a move, secure Bo Nix at the back end of the first round, and then they stick and pick after the top 10 was a lot of shifting, 4 quarterbacks off the board, Dallas Turner off the board, and getting PFF Verse, who's an absolute monster. So there you go. But that's it. Take a look at PFF's latest mock draft. You guys know what to do. Skull, production value.